Okay, so I got two exams that I'm going to be going through today to really make sure that I'm ready for this exam. And then hopefully later today, I'll be taking it. So let's just get right into it. We're just going to take, oh, this is product owner. I don't want this one. I want Scrum open. Um, let's do the Scrum open, start assessment. So this is the first one. This is the Scrum open. And the goal is to get this done within like 5 minutes, I think they said is helpful. So I'm also just going to be giving every answer just off the dome as I think about stuff. So let's get started. Okay, time box for sprint review is 4 hours. What is a daily Scrum held consistency? Um, who has the final say on the order of the product backlog? Product owner. Which statement best describes product owner's responsibility? Order and communicate. Maximize team. Yeah. So maximize the work because that's the ultimate goal, and then everything else falls under that. Time box for the sprint planning is 8 hours. Length of a sprint should be less than a month. Oh shoot, short enough. That's actually true. Yeah, because um, it's all about mitigating risk, and they recommend that you use shorter things if you want to have less risk. When should a developer on a Scrum team be replaced? Oh, while taking into account short-term reduction. It's got to be that one. So I guess you replace them as needed. I don't actually know where it says that, but that makes sense. When does a developer become accountable for the value? Um, oh, I see. That question is making sense now. So when does a developer become accountable for the value of a product backlog item selected for a sprint? Technically, they're always accountable for value. Like everyone's accountable for producing value. That's literally in the description. If you go into, um, let's just pull it up real quick. We go here and we go up to Scrum team. Fundamental unit. Scrum team is a submaster, no sub teams. Cohesive unit. So all teams have the necessary stuff to create value. Where does it say it? The Scrum team is responsible for all product related activities, stakeholder, like everything. They're structured. Accountable for the entire team is accountable for creating value, useful to the increment in every sprint. So they're all accountable to it. So we'll just keep going on that. An organization has decided to adopt Scrum. I remember this question. It's all of the above, but problem is when you don't follow Scrum specifically, you lose productivity. Um, it's the max amount of time is a time box. No more than a maximum. When might a sprint be abnormally canceled? Sprint could be abnormally canceled when the goal is no longer relevant. CEO asks you to add a very important thing. Any changes to a sprint have to be determined by the entire team. When many Scrum teams, single definition of done. What two things should a Scrum team do during the first sprint? I think it's a definition of done. Complete architecture. Complete the product backlog. So that's not true. Determine the complete architecture. That's not true. It's got to be these. Deliver something valuable. It's got to be that, because everything else just seems that's not the point of Scrum or Agile. The product backlog is ordered by whatever. There it is. So I was looking for that in the Scrum guide, but it was a question. Purpose of a sprint is to produce a valuable and useful increment of a working product. True. Let me make sure I'm not being tricked. Sprint is to produce a valuable and useful increment. Yeah, it has to be valuable, or else it's just a waste of time. Definition of done. Who creates it? The whole team. Where the result is. If it is not an organizational standard. Oh, that would have been tricky. I would have failed that one. But yeah, if it's not an organizational standard, then Scrum team creates definition of done. Who's required to attend the daily Scrum? Just the developers. When multiple Scrum teams work together on the same product, each team. False. Product backlog is a single source, so we want to keep it single. Who is responsible for managing the progress of work during a sprint? The developers, right? Who should know the most about progress toward a business objective or release? Project owner, product. Oh, that always throws me off. Oh, shoot. No, this might be developers. But I think business objective makes it product owner. I could be wrong on that. That'll be a helpful one too. Timebox daily Scrum is 15 minutes. Which statement best describes Scrum? If it has complex, I'm just going to click it. Yeah, complex products, complex environments. 3 pillars of empiricism are transparency, adaptability, and inspection. So transparency, inspection, transparency, adaptation. How much work must the developers complete for each product backlog item if they select for a sprint? Wait, let me read that again. How much must the developers complete for each product backlog item they select for a sprint? Enough to meet the definition of done. The developers should have all the skills needed to complete the definition of into an increment. Yeah. Projected estimated cost. No. Do all the development work except for, yep. So it's all about creating an increment. It's the main reason for a Scrum Master to be at a daily Scrum, to help encourage them. They need to make sure that they're there, but the main reason is to make sure that they're following best practices. So this is no longer a thing. To gather status. So I guess Scrum Master doesn't really report to management. That would be the product owner, I think. Maybe. 2 ways that a Scrum Master serves to enable effective Scrum teams. Removing blockers and helping them follow Scrum. Oh, shoot. Keeping high value features high. No, it's got to be one of these. I feel like this is more following Scrum. So when the following services, which of the following services? Teach developers. I feel like it's just going to be this one because technically this isn't a thing, but all answers technically could apply. Which statement best describes the sprint review? It's more than a demo. It's a working, it's a working meeting or whatever they call it. Inspect the outcome of a sprint, figure out what to do next. I did get one wrong. Yep. And I knew that that was going to be, or I assumed, I knew it was one of those. So, but 96%. There's one question that I want to go back and look at because to add a very important item to a sprint that is in progress. So you're adding value from the first one. That was a big thing I was confused by. The purpose of the sprint is to produce a valuable, useful increment. Who creates the definition of done? Scrum team. Who's required to attend daily Scrum? So that was another one. No, that wasn't. Managing the progress. So that's a big one. Let's go ahead and add that. I think that was the only one. Sprint review. So the following services is appropriate for a Scrum Master. Teach the developers to keep. Yeah, that was another big one. So it's only appropriate for the Scrum Master to help them with Scrum. You're not going to be doing any of this, which is actually funny because our organization definitely does that. So, oh, well, sometimes you learn something, and even though you're right, you stay quiet. So And that's funny. I literally had it right here. So what I might do is go ahead and review the answers, and then I'll go ahead and take this next test that I found, which claims that it has been updated with the 2020 guide. Do I believe that? No. But we'll see. A lot of people are saying it was very helpful. Okay. So let's just go through real quick and look at some of these answers. So 3 main qualities: productivity, flexibility, creativity. That makes sense. The Scrum Master serves. Product owner, yeah. How's the definition of done? So how does the product owner Scrum Master serve the product owner? They help them by coming up with new ways to implement Scrum, to clarify decisions, improve transparency, like anything that's Scrummy, any Scrummy expectations for the product owner, they help. So, like, yeah, techniques for backlog management, help them understand the need, ensuring product owner knows how to arrange product backlog to maximize value. Um, that's a big thing also. No specific order to based on product owner's preference. So that's a big thing to remember. Because I think they used to specify like this is how you do it. This is prohibited. Yep. So there's no such thing as like a refactoring sprint. And then I'm going to say you're providing value from the first sprint. Okay. Okay. Burn up charts, burn down charts. Coherence is just how well items stick together. Emergence is like facts for empiricism. Engineering standards are the forecasts are from the developers. Scrum board is like Jira, um, just a visualization. Self-managing, they make their own decisions. Stakeholders are other people that provide value or input or expertise to the area. Technical debt is basically the cost of progress and maintenance. Total cost of ownership is something that I actually want to look into. So let's check this out. Total cost of ownership. Total cost of a product during its life cycle. Not only cost of the initial purchase. So let's go ahead and add that from creation to death. Okay. So I think I'm pretty set for this next one. So let's go ahead and open that up. Um, free PS1 PSM 1. Let me just open Studio real quick and see if anyone's on. Okay. So we've got this other assessment. Let's go ahead and bigify it, and then we will take the assessment. And there's a time limit, 45 minutes for 60 questions. So let's get started. That was dumb. Developers should set stretch goals. Okay, so this isn't going to be helpful if that's literally the first question. Developers should set stretch goals by the product owner. I'm just going to go with false because it's not specified. What is product backlog grooming? It is. It's not an event. Special type of product backlog refinement. See, that's annoying because I'm. So let's go into product owner, product backlog management. So well, I guess let's go into the Scrum glossary refinement. That's a stupid question. Scrum Master is accountable for the product backlog. Why does Scrum require the product backlog to be ordered rather than prioritized? There can only be one position in the product backlog when it comes to order. Let's just go with that, but none of these were mentioned. Among the developers, there's nobody with significant testing experience. They should. Produce an increment that will be tested by a dedicated after the sprint. No, probably not. Yeah, that's an impediment. How many specific accountabilities? 3. A new developer joins Scrum team, total number 11 people. I'm going to say as a potential issue, help the developers decide what to do about it. It's not a potential issue, it's a violation. The result of the sprint review is a revised product backlog. Let's actually see that. Let's just keep going. This is definitely part of it. I don't know if acceptance or rejection. Let's just go with that. I think it was acceptance or rejection. All Scrum teams will have Scrum Master and Product Owner. True. During the daily Scrum, developers must answer the 3 questions false. Purpose of the sprint review is to that. Daily Scrum is consistently taking longer than 15 minutes. Definitely a time for the Scrum Master to step in. Documentation is required as part of an increment. Who creates it? Probably the developers. The entire Scrum team is accountable for creating. True. An increment is the sum of the done work plus. So this is the definition, but it's not true. All the work that was carried out in the sprint. Scrum Master is a management role. False. True, false, true. It's a leadership role. Scrum Master is a leader. Which of the following best describes the first sprint? Scrum Master and Product Owner accountabilities can both be held by one person. False. Can both be. I don't think they should, but they might be able to. I don't know. Sprint backlog must be detailed enough that stakeholders can monitor. The developers can turn it into. Changes in progress can be understood in the daily Scrum. I'm going to guess it's that one because that's what the sprint backlog is for. It's for providing transparency in the daily Scrum. Product owner must invite stakeholders to the sprint retrospective. That sounds. It's definitely not a must. Oh, to the retro? No. That was dumb, kind of tricky. When is the product backlog considered complete? When all items in it have been completed. When all items have been completed, never truly complete. One of the following events have the shortest time box. It would be the retro, because we care the least about our own people. Who is responsible for? Wait. Who's responsible for monitoring the progress of work during a sprint? The developers. What happens when a sprint goal becomes obsolete? Product owner uses burn up charts instead of burn down charts. A Scrum team must only work on a single product goal at a time. True. Who can do the work to ensure the product backlog is refined to a state that is useful? Yeah, it's got to be those two. In the context of Scrum, what do burn down charts track? Down is work remaining. Scrum Master must facilitate the daily Scrum. Definition of done is mandatory part of Scrum. That's true. During sprint planning, all product backlog items must be decomposed. That I just don't like must. Um, Whatever. Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring Scrum is understood. Increments must be released at the end of every sprint. False. Who has the final say on the order of items in the product backlog? So, final say on the order of items in the product backlog. That's always going to be the product owner. What does a sprint burn down chart show? Burn down chart is, so it's burned down, so it's work remaining. Release progress. Yeah, remaining workload. What tools can be used for managing the product backlog? So, tools for managing the product backlog. I'm going to say all of these answers apply. Although if you use sticky notes, that kind of hurts. That would hurt. So product owner must attend a sprint retro. True. Scrum master manages the Scrum team. See, I don't know if this is a test about like manage versus leads, but technically they're leading the team. and helping implement. So, like on a technicality, I'm going to say that one is false. Scrum Master can be removed once Scrum is adopted. That's definitely false. What is velocity? It's the progress that was made. Product owner is primarily responsible for defining what of the product, who is primarily determining how. That's the developers for sure. Developers decide how. Um, During sprint planning, every task must be estimated so that the developers can be sure they have the capacity to complete them in the sprint. So during sprint planning, every task must be estimated. False, because it's based on empiricism. A Scrum team must never have. um, Before the first sprint, the product backlog must contain everything we will develop for the product. Before the first sprint, backlog must contain everything we will develop for the product. False. No way. Um, Management needs to monitor progress on a daily basis and decide to do so by attending the daily scrum. What will likely result? Um, Developers will be less transparent. Maybe required, may end up with less time. Okay. Which of the following best describes the topics discussed at sprint planning? Um, Sprint planning. So it's why is it valuable? What can be done and how to do it? Um, Product backlog refinement is okay. Developers include which role? But I don't know if product owner and developers collaborate. I think it's the concern of the product owner, because it is specified as his role, and then the Scrum Master helps with implementation. Developers include which roles? No other roles. By the end of the sprint retro, the Scrum team should have identified and planned improvements. Should is throwing me off. I'm going to gut check it and say false. I don't know. I'll leave it on false. Product backlog is never complete. As long as the product exists, the backlog exists. Who can change the sprint backlog during a sprint? Developers. Scrum Master is a leader and servant in service of which of the following? The organization and the Scrum team. Who may be best positioned to decide who will be Scrum Master for a new Scrum team? Ooh, that's a good question. I want to say developer. I feel like because the team is self-managed, right? The sprint planning event is comprised of two parts. The product owner is not needed at the second part. False. All of that is false, technically. It's comprised of three parts, and the product owner is actually working with the developers in the second part. But the developers, that's an old question. It's outdated. A Scrum team uses 2-week sprints and a time box. This breaks the rules of Scrum. False. This is 2-week sprints and a time box, sprint planning. Nope, nothing wrong with that. Select the correct time box for each Scrum event. Planning is 8 hours. Daily Scrum is 15 minutes. Which statement best describes a cross-functional team? Have all the skills required to create the product. The definition of ready. Ugh. A product owner manages the developers, the product backlog. There we go. Scrum team must be 10 or fewer people. Oh, curse you. Okay. Doxing myself with my spam account. Ew. Okay, so that's one of those musts, right? Product refinement is ongoing process. Yeah. Yeah, that was just phrased weird, but Scrum Master and Product Owner accountabilities. Ah, it's true. Really. Scrum does not prohibit. Okay. Ooh, 2 in a row. There we go. Increment is... So... I don't know. That one's a little sus. I knew I was going to get that one wrong, but it's not apparent to me. Okay, I guess if that's how that's supposed to be interpreted, then that makes sense. Oh, must be full-time. Incorrect, incorrect, incorrect. Dang, I got 3 in a row right in the beginning. So let's look at all these. Oh. You know what's funny is I was between those, but I just missed the select 2. Instruct developers to split into 2 teams. Ten is so that seems to be a consistent theme. So let's go ahead because those are all the questions that I got wrong. So let's go ahead and bring up my notes. Okay. Sorry, I just realized that's probably. Oh no, it doesn't pick it up. Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, that's helpful. Let's just go through. Realistic forecast should be created. Product backlog grooming was removed by Scrum years ago and replaced with refinement. This is due to negative connotations with the word, with the product manager being a groomer. Um, Scrum Master is accountable for the product backlog. Why does Scrum require product backlog to be ordered? That makes sense. They should raise it as a problem, and it's also their responsibility. Scrum team has how many specific accountabilities? 3. Yeah. So this is actually a big thing. So let's go to the Scrum team. So let's just say 10 or fewer people. Team should break off. Minimum of 3. So that's a big thing, that the size is recommended to suggestion. So 10 is a recommendation. The result of a sprint review is yeah, I remember being sussed out by this one. Let me see if the one pager has. This is asking about the result of the review. So that's always the product is in bold, and that is revised product backlog. So let's just go down here and say revised product backlog. All Scrum teams will have a Scrum Master and a product owner. Let's keep going. False. 3 questions or suggestions. Purpose of the sprint review is to inspect outcome. Daily Scrum consistently taking longer than 15 minutes. Help them understand the value of a time box. That makes sense. Um, if documentation is required, yeah, of course the developers take care of that. Because the developers basically handle everything. The entire Scrum team is accountable for creating valuable, useful increment every sprint. That's true. An increment is, yeah. It seems that so that's fine to know. Which of the following best describes the first sprint? Deliver value. That's kind of crazy. Doesn't specify that one person can only have one role. Just not suggested. Sprint backlog must be detailed. Changes in progress can be understood in the daily Scrum. Product owner must invite typically internal. Let's say so that is good to know. A living artifact. Which of the following events has the shortest time box? The retro. It's 3 hours. Who is responsible for monitoring the progress of work during a sprint? The developers. Yeah. That's what the daily Scrum is all about. What happens when a sprint goal becomes obsolete? The product owner can cancel the sprint. Product owner is using burn up charts is fine. Scrum team must only work on a single product goal at any time. True. Who can do the work to ensure product backlog is refined to a state that is useful? In the context of Scrum, what do burn down charts track? Amount of time remaining, amount of work remaining. Scrum Master must facilitate. I'm actually messed up on facilitate both times I said it in the test and just now. Definition of done, yeah, of course it's mandatory. All product backlog items must be decomposed. So often, holy moly, that's gonna suck. Like, often. So let's just write all these down real quick. Must, should, often, suggested, can. Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring Scrum is understood. At the end of every sprint. Who has the final say on the order of items in the product backlog file? Okay. Burn down chart shows how much remains. What tools? So why is this wrong? Because it's not release. Okay. Product owner must attend the sprint retro. True. Scrum Master manages the Scrum team. Scrum Master can be removed once Scrum is adopted. No way. Velocity is how much work they're doing. Defining the what of the product. Yeah, devs. Every task must be estimated. It's not a require. It is mentioned, but it's not required. A Scrum team must never have it. Yeah, whatever. Before the first sprint, product backlog must contain everything. Now, progress towards the goal. Yeah. What is the following best? Which of the following best describes the sprint planning? Why the work is valuable, what can be done, how to do it. Okay, product backlog refinement is that makes sense. Because the developers adjust the scope, right? That's annoying that they just. Well, let's go to the Scrum glossary. Backlog refinement is. Okay. So yeah, that was literally just a definition that I missed. So refinement is collaborative. Developers, there's no other roles. Retro. Sprint retro. So let's see what the definition is. So then let's see the that's right. Oops. Okay. So let's see what the Scrum guide says. Well, let's see retro. Yeah, so it just says that is what they do. So let's just add this here. True. Chain the developers run the sprint. Backlog. Scrum Master is leader and servant. Yeah, of course, organization and the team. Who may be best positioned to decide who will be a Scrum Master for a new Scrum team? Um, developers and the product owner, who may be best positioned to decide who will be the Scrum Master for a new Scrum team. Yeah, that makes sense. Is comprised of 2 parts. Is not needed at the second part. So this is actually a good test. It's actually updated. Yeah, time boxes. Best describes cross-functional team. Yeah, they have everything they need. Definition of done. Product owner manages the product backlog. Scrum team, false. Okay. So big takeaways are that size is just a suggestion. A lot of things are just suggestions except for deliverables. Those seem to be pretty set in stone. So I may actually go through this one more time and just do like musts, shoulds, that kind of stuff. And then if I'm not ready for this test, then I'm never going to pass it. So let's just go ahead and Scrum wraps around existing practices or renders them unnecessary. Formal events for inspection, adaptation. With Scrum, the important decisions are based on the perceived state of its three formal artifacts. So here we go. Inspection tasks, Scrum events are designed to provoke change. Scrum team members learn and explore the values. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So I think that's all I got on me. I'm rocking a pretty gnarly headache from kicking my brain into maximum overdrive. Um, so I will probably end this stream and then take the test later and update you with the results. So thanks for watching, as always.